Hello, what's up? We're the Cutkelvins. Welcome. This is our first ever podcast.
Each week we're going to be discussing different topics, so make sure you stay tuned in.
This week we're going to be talking about all our journeys into the music industry. We've all got different stories, don't we?
So to kick start us off, she may be the youngest, but she did start the earliest, so Shireen.
Well, it started off first ever seeing my dad rehearsing, and I know it's all kind of similar in that aspects of things, but I must have been about 8 or something. I used to sneak into my dad's rehearsal rooms, stand by the door so they wouldn't see me and I wouldn't get kicked out, and like a little fly in the wall. And that was like my first kind of moments of like, wow, this is cool, like I want to do this. And you know, for a few months I just stood there and listened until eventually I started singing, and that became harmonies. And then, you know, my dad was like, oh, you want to sing? And you done a one-on-one with me and kind of brought me up, didn't he? Like, taught me how to sing properly, taught me how to breathe properly, taught me how to walk on stage, because I used to walk like this, like a robot on stage. I couldn't I couldn't walk. I know it sounds stupid, but when the music would come on, I'd feel really nervous, and I don't know, I would just be like this, I'm just thinking about walking, and my dad...
It's a thought, yeah, isn't it? When you try to
and it's like
bring them two together.
Exactly, you're thinking about two different things. You're thinking about your lyrics, thinking about projecting it and all that. And what he would do is he would tell me to stand outside the room. He would go 3, 2, 1, press play on. It was a mini disc he would use, isn't it? The mini disc player back in the day. I'm not telling you my age, but I'm not that old. And I would come in, and if I made a mistake, right back out, do it again, and we'd go over and over and over. And I like vividly remember like sitting at a table and just being like this, Dad, like, can I go? Like, he's like, no, you need to get it right.
Your head hurting.
Literally, and I'd be like,
I'd be at school these things as well, and I'd be ready to go with my mates and that on the Friday night, but I always remember stream, so I was never allowed to go out to see our friends and
Don't make it sound bad. You were never allowed to go out.
Never allowed to go out, wasn't
it?
Until you'd done your weekly videos that you posted up on YouTube.
Well, that was kind of late. That was when I was about 14, so my mum and dad, well, at this point, actually, was it just mum? At this point, it was just mum, actually. And, you know, she said, you're not allowed to go out at the weekend until you post up your weekly YouTube video. And I'll get into that in a minute, but after my dad was rehearsing with me, we went to my first ever audition, which was with Dad, my uncle, my cousin and my auntie.
Remember that?
My first ever trip to London, I was gassed. We woke up at got the 6 o'clock train down, it was the first ever train. Booked an Airbnb, I was so excited, we're going to London, we're going to London.
Can you remember the name? It slipped me.
Family Affair.
Family Affair, I thought it was that.
The Family Affair we were called, and we had there's like an old programme called GMTV, wasn't it?
GMTV, yeah.
It's not that old.
No, it's not out anymore.
Is it not?
No, we stopped it, but we went down there and I was so excited on this train, I just couldn't stop smiling. And we went to we went to the hotel actually, and it was an old rundown pub. We were like, the taxi driver's like, we're here guys, and we're like, no, this can't be it, we've paid the money, this is not it. So we spent that full day trying to find hotels, and it turns out there was a football match on and all the hotels were booked, and we literally had to go into a hotel foyer. And I remember my dad saying, listen, like, I'm just trying to get a room for the night, doesn't matter if it's one room, you can all stay in here, I'm not want my daughter sleeping outside in the bushes and that. And then this one hotel was like, listen, I've got one room. So we were all cooped up in this one room, had about an hour of sleep, went to the TV edition, which we didn't get, by the way, even though we rocked it.
What was the edition for?
It was for like...
It was family bands.
It was family bands, it was like best family band in the UK. Which actually, our ex-manager was the first time I met her there. But that's a whole different podcast as well. And then, you know, we came back and I says to my dad, you know, this is what I want to do. Then he says, well, do you want to be in a band? Do you want to do solo? And I decided I wanted to be in a band, and my mum and dad put everything into it. They put newspapers out, they put ads on Facebook, everywhere, and we had all these girls coming to the house auditioning, didn't they?
I remember that.
Well.
I know you remember it. Kyle was always in it. How you doing, Kyle? Trying to get in there.
I remember those things well.
They almost brought it back. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Temptation movie, but it's a good movie to go and see it.
Old school,
the way they bring the people in and that and audition them just straight in the house and everything's there. It reminded me back in their times. They just stripped
Yeah.
it back to old school styles, which I liked.
I think it was his dad's there, and I think some of the family members were there, I think, as well, and they were kind of judging and seeing what would work. I think it might have been at Alley, yeah. And
Gilly was maybe there.
yeah, and it ended up with me and two of my friends, Lauren and Danielle, who became Unique. And we started doing our first ever gigs. You guys always turned up. It was always a big vibe when you guys showed up on it. You bring all your friends, and it was madness to be honest.
I remember one of the gigs that turned up. I can't remember what it was. I think it was in Coatbridge. Me and all my friends.
Yeah, that was our first
we
ever
turned
show.
up in the minibus. There must have been about 15, 20 of us. All my friends were going wild, drinking and just partying and that. And then I came in just before you came on stage. Next time I see this big rammy at the front, and that was going out. What the hell's going on out there? So I ran out, and the next thing I see is about 5 or 6 of my friends getting thrown out the back, thrown out the place. And I was like, oh no, this is Shireen's first gig. one of their gigs.
We just played through it, so it was alright.
I remember that the moment before going on stage, I was breaking it. Like that was our debut show as Unique. We'd done a couple shows before it, but that was our first show where we were headlining. And you know, I say headline, it was just a family really that came out, wasn't it? It wasn't like
Headline's a headline, where it's two people or 10,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Or maybe a few straight
That's
times.
what it is.
People.
Yeah, there were a couple hundred people, and it was a big thing for us. And to be honest with you, I was absolutely crapping myself. And I remember pacing up and down, and I was wearing heels at the time. I was 15 or something like that, and I'm wearing these wee heels, my wee chicken legs, and I'm thinking, I can't do this. And I was singing a song for my dad at the time as well. And
Not much changed there.
no, you sounded well, Edinburgh there.
I know,
Not
it's
much
meant
change
to.
there.
Well, you're dissing Edinburgh people watching.
No, we're from Edinburgh.
Pulling it back pedal.
Well, I can say it. But yeah, the show went down amazing though, and there was what a feeling once you actually tackle those nerves and just think, do you know what, fuck it, like, I'm going to go for it kind of thing. And then from there we got an opportunity where we decided to go on BGT, Britain's Got Talent, and we done the first edition, smashed it, and then in between that time, unfortunately, my dad had passed away, and I think it must have been a week or 2 weeks or something. It was the live auditions in front of the judges, and I wasn't up for it, to be honest with you. I just felt like it's not really the right time, but I didn't want to pull out and ruin the girls' chances. And I said to the girls, can you take the lead? But they didn't want to take the lead, and I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do?
My voice, that was...
My voice was gone.
Gone for the full week.
You're struggling to even speak.
I mean, it was a rough time, and you know, there were a lot of crying and that, I'm sure you can imagine. My voice was completely gone, to be honest with you. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I couldn't speak the day before the audition. And I remember just people being like, go on voice rest, and like there was no amount of voice rest, there was no amount of honey and lemon, hot water that could have fixed this because my voice was gone. And I remember getting up there and just like basically nothing came out. Michael McIntyre it was. He was like, oh no, wait, let me tell you the first bit before it. No, it was Michael McIntyre. That guy which...
I was on it.
What was that other guy? From Baywatch.
He said it said something much at the show as well.
You take some slice of the ginger
The
in your
Hawk.
front
The
Hawk.
ginger man.
Mate, you don't know.
It's a ginger, you'll be cool.
It was the Hawk.
And who else is... Somebody else. But anyway, 3 judges there. And we're up there singing, obviously my throat's not there, and I'm trying to squeeze out these notes, it's just coming out. just bits of air. We were singing My Boy Lollipop, that's what it was. And I'm trying to do the dance routine and that, you know, like thinking, oh my god, this is terrible.
But the buzzers,
Yeah.
man,
One buzzer. You jump out your skin, you're like, do you know what, just keep going. My boy lollipop, boom, next buzzer. And I'm thinking, oh god, I'm not going back to school after this. And then when the second buzzer went off, I pulled these notes out from the bottom of my toes. I'm like, Shireen, you better sing, girl. And I managed to burst out a few notes. And then I seen Michael McIntyre go like this to put his hand on the buzzer and then lifting it up when I started singing. And then my voice cracked again. My voice was gone. First buzzer. And I'm standing like this. Oh, fuck's sake. Here we go. And then Michael McIntyre asked me if I had a sore throat, and I told him, I didn't tell him the story because I didn't want to get into it.
Does it sound like it?
I was like, I couldn't speak yesterday, and literally, voice was gone. David Hasselhoff said what he said, but I remember that time they were very adamant on trying to get my dad's story out off me, but you know, it was about a week ago it happened, or 2 weeks ago it happened. I just wasn't ready to speak about it. To the point I actually started crying, and I was like, listen, can we not go there? I don't want this to be my audition route. I want to go up there and sing. I was so mad that I went into the toilets, punched it. I'm not an angry boy, I am actually an angry kind of person. So angry, he's looking at me like, and I punched the cubicle toilet because I knew I could do so much better. But following that, I started posting up YouTube videos online, which led me to ultimately getting signed actually. But it led me to go down to London when I was at the age of
15, was it?
15, and I was in between school and work experience and down to London, so I'd go from school, jump on the train, head down to Kent, and I would do the teas and do the coffees, pack the fridge, pack the dishwasher.
Still can't make a tea.
See, when you were 15, when you first got that call and that, what did it feel like when you first, like, can you remember going to the train or that when you were going down? With your bags and that packed? Or?
I remember having to take time off school, and Brandon and Angel, our younger siblings, were always like, oh, you always get to take time off school, and I'm saying, listen, I'm trying to work I'm going for my dream, I'm working, it's not as if I'm just staying in and doing nothing kind of thing.
Getting on it.
And nah, but I remember that.
Listen to what I was doing.
I remember that vividly, like, and taking time off from school and always having to have the teachers, the mum writing the notes into the teachers, and going down for work experience, and then that led to me writing in the studio and singing in the studio. So it was all a huge experience for me, which ultimately ended in me getting signed to Neon Jungle. But again, that's a whole different podcast as well, but that was kind of my first footsteps into it.
First taste into it.
Yeah.
So that leads on to round about their times. It was a similar time when I got into it as well, but just to take it back, it's not singing as such, but my first taste in music was, Shireen touched on the topics, is my dad would always be rehearsing in the house, or he'd have the band round rehearsing, and I'd always be hiding at the other side of the door, listening in, trying singing the old soul songs at a young age and that went, but obviously no one could hear me at the time because I was just hiding behind the door, being shy. And at that time, at young, I never knew I wanted to sing. I just knew it was in the family. It was
something you enjoyed.
It was something I was brought up with, and you just seen it every day. So going and singing behind the door and that, it was just something you did when you heard it all happening. But fast forwarding for there, when I started actually getting a bit of interest in it, must have been, what, 17? You must have been...
I was 16
16,
years old.
about 17. So it was round about the time where my mum and dad had tried to start a girl group with Unique, or what they did. They also wanted to do a boy band. So they had me, Kyle and two other guys there. And anyway, we've got lined up in the kitchen. My dad's getting us ready to sing the song and that, and it's coming. I can just feel these nerves starting to overcome my body. I'm going, oh no. So then I start trying to act like a fool, do you know what I mean? Because I knew the confidence was slipping, the shyness was coming in. I thought, nah, I need to try and... It was like a self-defence thing. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just started acting like a fool, playing up. And I looked up, I see my dad's face. He looks up like this, he starts to see the steam coming out his ears. But that's not when you know you messed up. You know when you messed up.
You always tell with dad's face,
innit? But when you see the nostrils flaring out and they started going, you're thinking, oh shit. I've stepped in it, and the guys is looking at me, and they see his face. And I'm looking at my dad, I'm thinking, oh no, but I stopped, and he's like, that's it, get upstairs, you're fired, get out my sight. So I'm walking upstairs, but secretly I'm thinking, oh, what have I just done? Because I wanted to do it, I just couldn't overcome my nerves to try and get a note out, basically shat myself. So he came upstairs after he continued the rehearsal with Kyle and other boys, and he came upstairs afterwards, and he says, I remember him saying, he's like, listen son, I apologise for what I did earlier. He says, but I had to make an example, because if you're clowning about and being a fool, what example does that set for the rest of the guys that's there? Do you know what I mean? He says, if I let you away with it, they're going to do it, and it's not going to be a serious note put in the band, it's not going to get done. So that was, do you know what I mean? Even to this day I respect that, and I learned it. So anyway, basically it says you're back in the band, but for other reasons with guys' commitments it was in the band never came about. But I never even got to sing a note then.
Feet, that's what it was. The guys we were singing with, but
couldn't have
I went after it at the end of the rehearsal and that.
I wasn't want to say that because they're watching, do you know what I mean?
I remember peeking in, and it was just a simple like side to the side, like this.
No, but they're all
And they're
over
going,
the place, man.
like this. My dad's saying, well, when you walk, do you do this?
I
So
remember
you
that.
walk with your hands.
Move like you would walk. You don't walk like this. No,
Because I'm an nervous like this.
I mean,
Yeah, man.
but fast forwarding for that
That
moment,
was a fuck that rehearsal, man. Jay got sacked and then as soon as we started, the guys were rinse.
but fast forwarding for that moment, for the boy band, the next occasion where I actually got to sing a note was the night Dad had got me and you again. It was me and you again, so he hadn't gave up on us at this point. He thought, my boys have got it in them, do you know what I mean? I'm going to pull it out them one way or another. So he, anyway, he's downstairs and he says, listen guys, I want you to get down and get singing, get your ass in gear basically. And we're like, right, cool. So Kyle goes, he says, right, I want you downstairs and just say it was an hour's time. So an hour goes by. Kyle's upstairs, he puts his bath on and that, try to avoid it. I'm in my room trying to avoid it, and all I hear is my dad shouting, right boys, come on downstairs. Or you could hear a pin drop, silence. I don't answer, Kyle's no answering. The next minute, you just 10 seconds goes by, silence still, nobody said shit. Next minute you hear the footsteps coming upstairs and you're thinking, oh no, I'm not getting out of this now. The bedroom door comes up and he's like, get your ass downstairs now. I've told you you're coming down and singing, I want to get you singing. So we're like, right, no bother. But that was a kick up the butt that we needed, because me being me and Kyle being Kyle, we'd have just sat in that room and tried to avoid doing it, do you know what I mean?
I've done it loads of nights before that. Even tried to get us up. And that last night, I can remember supposed to be doing it, actually just ran that bath so I could just get out and the singing around. So obviously Jay had the footsteps, I had them come up as well. I had Jay's door banging first, boom boom boom. Fuck, I know whose door's next, man.
Put that fake bath on.
Get that fucking bath now down the stairs. I was like, oh no. I hadn't even got a bit of water on me yet, man. To run back down the stairs. So obviously we wanted to do it, innit?
So we wanted to do it, but it's just the shyness takes over. So anyway, we go downstairs, and it was a song, Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye, and because that's obviously got a lot of good vocal range on it, so we wanted to test where we're at. And Kyle just reminded me the other day of the reason why he wanted. He says, listen boys, if you nail this song, the women's going to go crazy, you know what I mean? The vocal range is on this, the women's sex sells, you know what I mean? You're going to get crazy for. And Lewis, my older brother, he kept popping his head in, trying to distract us and stuff, so we kept getting distracted. But anyway, we got on with it and we got it done. And the relief that you had from it for actually doing it, you were so nervous, and you build it up to be, and some of you guys might be the same out there that's starting to sing, you build it up, you put it on this, such a higher pedestal, that you try and, it goes that high of a pedestal, you think, oh, I've done it too high to reach. So when the moment actually comes and you do it, you think, do you know what, that was actually nothing, I don't know why I've put it that high, the standard's that high.
It's just the first notes getting them out, isn't it?
Same with anything in life, isn't it? Doesn't need to be singing,
But
you could always build something up to that.
But what made that night so special was the fact we actually sang in front of my dad, and that very night that we never knew, my dad passed away that night. So it was a blessing that we got to do it, because you could have lived to regret that moment and saying, I never went up and done that. But the fact, I felt great that we actually got up, and my dad, he'd heard us sing before and stuff, maybe singing about the house and stuff like that, but as soon as you say, oh, sounding good son, you'd be stopping and go a shy and run away to the next room or whatever. But that night we actually done it in front of him, and I'm not saying we sang great, but Kyle was saying the other day that he was on the phone to his friend after it, and that calling saying, I've got the boys up singing, final up singing, and he was excited about it, and that was the night he passed. So obviously it was a blessing in itself to get that done. Just need a wee second. Moving on for that.
I'm trying to hold them back.
Moving on for that. I remember a year went by, so I never really got up to much after that. But I remember my uncle Raymond on my mum's side, he plays a lot of instruments, guitar and stuff like that. And he'd phoned me up one time, he's like, do you fancy coming? And do you know what I mean? He must have heard that we'd done a bit of singing that night and that, and he says, you want to come up and do a bit on the guitar? And I'm like, alright, let's go for it. So I go up, still trying to recover for that, man.
And that's happened.
I know. But anyway, says, you want to come up, we'll do a bit on the guitar. So I says, right, we'll go for it.
Was it
So-
a live band?
No, this was just him and the guitar at the time. It was just going up to sing in his living room basically. He was playing the guitar, so I turned up and again I put it on a pedestal again, made it into this big thing. I've learned the song, I know the song word by word, I know what I need to do. I've turned up to the house, he starts playing the guitar. 5 minutes goes by, I'm still looking at him. I mean, he's looking at me and he's obviously thinking I'm not what to push him because he's not really done it before.
Yeah.
I'm not what to ruin his confidence before he gets it, do you know what I mean? 10 minutes goes by, he's still playing this song. I'm looking at him, but it feels like just seconds to me. And I'm looking at him and I know the word. And he's like, come on Jay, he says, you're going to start actually doing something here. He says, my fingers is killing me. I'm saying, I said, I'm trying to remember the words, this, that, and the next thing. And obviously, I don't
like his fingertips are going to
I've tried to dabble in the guitar myself a wee bit and your fingers do get agony, so never mind playing that. So anyways, it gets to the 15-minute mark. He's like, right, come on, fuck Jay, basically, get some bloody words out here, do you know what I mean? I'm on fire here. I'm going to end up needing to put some plasters on my finger. So I start singing anyway, I get the first note out and it's like, and then I was like, come on, like, telling yourself, what are you doing? Not me, go do it. Know what I mean? Eventually the note comes out, and I sing the rest of the song. I didn't sing it perfect or nothing, but we got to the end of what we had to do, and with the conversation after it, and that's saying, you don't need to make it as a big a deal as what it is in that, but you've got through it, you've got a natural talent to do it. Like, just try and embrace that. But I think for me, because I was a late starter at 20, at that time you're already worried about what too many people think of you, this, that, and the next thing. And it can be the case when you're a kid as well, but when you're a kid you don't really care as much because your mind's elsewhere. When you get older, you're already, your pals and that's never seen you singing and that, they're just going, I think you're going to take the piss in that, so you end up not venturing into that as quick as what you'd like. But that was that, and from that experience I'd done about 4 sessions with my uncle on the guitar, one a week. And then my other uncle, he's got a soul group, this is my dad's brother, he phoned me up and says, listen, I've heard you've started getting into a bit of singing. And I says, getting into it, I've only done it a couple of times, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say getting into it, do you know what I mean? He's like, well, I've got a opening as a backing vocalist in my group. Says, if you want to come and do it. And I've already listened to these songs all my life and I was ready to say no. And let that confidence thing defeat me again. And I says, you know what? I said, I'll do it.
Go for it.
I battled my own head and I said, I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Point was being the shy guy or whatever. You need to go out there and chase your dreams. You just kick back and don't go for it, it's not going to work. And at that point, it wasn't even about chasing the dreams, it was just, I wanted to overcome my fear of doing it. Yeah. And I fed up of saying no to things, because you say no to too many things, you're never going to get that opportunity. So you need to start saying yes to some things, even if you don't want to do it, and make sure you're paving that way. So I get in there and we do a gig up in Scotland, Stirling, and it's the Drifters songs we were doing, for those of you guys that might know. And I'm only doing backing vocals. So they announce, like, guys, I've got my suit on, my tie, the full R tie, looking slick, you know what I mean, the David Ruffin getter. And they tell you an hour, right, that's you on stage in an hour. Oh, my stomach starts going. Straight to the toilet, you know what I mean? Banged one out. No. Let me fuck. No, whoa.
Oh, wait!
I shite.
Hey! So slow! Dirty bag.
Can't even rewind this shit. No, I mean...
That's your dirty mind, isn't it?
I know. I seen his face as I said that, I said, well, fuck that. So I ran to the toilet, know what I mean? Took a shite, came back, the guy comes in 20 minutes before stage, right? 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you're back on. Stomach goes again, I'm running. I didn't even eat much that day, so I don't know where it was coming from, man. So, go to the toilet again, know what I mean? Fucking, I say, what's going on? I'm only singing backing vocals, oohs and ahs, know what I mean? I need to give you the full details just so you know.
I don't think we've moved on for that point still. He's trying to quickly get there.
So anyway, it comes up to 5 minutes before stage. I've got everything out of my system, so I can't go back to the toilet anyway, even if I wanted to. I'm thinking, here we go. No? So we jump on stage, I think let's get ready, the song comes on. Then it goes. Then aye, so when that comes
I
on,
was waiting to meet you, join in there.
Look
Look at me.
Come on, that's a classic.
so we're all walking in. Please welcome to the stage, the drifter. And then we come on, and the stage was just like 4 mics on the dance floor, and you had your monitors in front of you, and then the people was behind that, so it's like 2 feet between you and the people, and they're already pissed the time you get on there. But I was so nervous right up to that moment, and the minute, and I was up there, it was my uncle, my cousin, me and another guy, so I was up there with family as well, which was good. But right up into the moment the notes came out, it was like an overwhelming feeling came over me, and it felt so natural. And I wasn't singing any lead songs, bearing in mind it was just backing vocals, and it just felt amazing, and it just felt as if you were home on that stage. And it was 2 45-minute sets, and I cannot describe a better feeling than what happens. I mean, no alcohol can replicate it. I mean, the buzz that you get anyway. Not that I'm big enough alcohol. It's good to have a wee berry in it again anyway. But honestly, it was an amazing feeling, and I remember that's round about, obviously, so another 6 years that we moved on after that, but we'll leave that for another podcast. But that was round about the time that you were entering into the business as well.
Aye, roughly, aye. Obviously, I done what you touched on before with a group there, a couple of pals and that. And then after that, I actually started venturing into rapping that, 'cause I've always been into hip hop music and sort of urban stuff as well. And I started chilling with a couple of new pals and that, so I started doing a bit of rapping.
It was MCing you started, was it not?
Aye, back in the day it was,
MC Kyle.
MC Kyle.
MC Kyle.
MC Nasty Kyle.
MC Nasty Kyle.
MC Nasty Kyle.
You're joking.
Aye,
You didn't call yourself MC Nasty.
You had the wee moustache you grew in that.
What was it?
I think that's in your dreams, mate.
What was it?
But after that, Mum started...
No, what was your name?
Never had any
Don't
words
get past
like
that.
This was right at the
Alright.
very start. I never had any name of that. This is like, when I just started to get into it, I was venturing, because obviously when you first start off, you try to find your own genre or what lane you're trying to go down. And I've always been inspired by a lot of different music. So I was just trying to venture each different lane, you know what I mean, to go down. So I started doing a bit of rapping and that, and these times this is when Mum's putting shows and that on for us. I can remember me and my friend, one of my friends had done a show, and you were actually performing at it as well. But I was actually shitting it, bricking it before I went on stage. And it was my Wavy's first gig as well. And it done a couple shots and that before it, and it was 10 minutes ago, and I run back, a couple more shots and that.
You know the funny thing, no that I'm
Aye.
not in, you were supposed to be on stage after
I know,
me
because
that
you
day.
were shitting yourself that much, you went and told the sound man to switch
I
his...
told the swing man to
Aye.
switch me and you about.
But that's point...
Put your wee brother in for it.
Chuck coming to the rules first.
See how he goes.
I was so nervous, man.
Terrible.
So nervous, except masking the shots then. But by the time I got on stage, I realised I'd probably done about 4 or 5 too many shots. I just ruined it, man. I come on, it was like probably kids and that then. I came on, I swore a couple of times in the mic and that.
When you're a couple of times, he means more than a couple of
And I
times.
just absolutely minced it, man. Oh, what? I
Mate,
look,
give a quote of what you said.
I look at back at these
Get the
videos,
feeling,
look
how it
back at
was.
these videos at this now. Oh, it's embarrassing, man. But I came on, so they've got young kids. With this guy, yeah, everyone from the front to the back, put your fucking hands up or something like that. It's like
5-year-olds, 8-year-olds.
I can just remember
Like scared out their
I
skin.
can just remember like, looking at the front and that, and it seemed like people covering their kids' ears, mum and dads and that, and I'm like, oh no, and walked back at it. But I absolutely minced that one. That was my first time on stage.
The crowd loved it though, you know. It was actually
good.
went really
No,
well.
actually, well, my part wasn't well yesterday, and it went well.
I thought yours, it went well.
No, I think we pulled it back in the last song. I think the first two, man, I forgot the words, and Wavy freestyled his bit. He does absolutely minced it.
You can find a video of that then sometime.
After that, what else did we do? I done a couple more shows that Mum had
Mum
put
put
on.
another show in Edinburgh.
We done that
Corn
one,
Exchange.
and then meanwhile, this is when Jay was coming up. Jay had already done a couple things by this point, and I was always wanted to do it. And they phoned me up saying there was a position in the motoring group. Because you were working with 2 groups at the time, I'm sure, at this point. And they phoned me up, and I was like, alright, cool. So I went and done it. Turned up to the first gig. I remember I was actually shitting myself again. He turned up, and it's like Motown, so they wear like all the matching suits and that, or old suits. But obviously, I was filming the guy in for the position, whoever was singing before. I don't know who he was, but he was about 3 times the size of me. Put this out on right, man, and the thing's absolutely drenched at me. I'm looking at the other guys looking quite slick in that. I'm sitting there looking like a drowned rat. This thing's absolutely horrible on me, man. I'm going to pass my shoes. The trousers falling down my shoes.
Arse out the ankle.
And I'm already shitting it, not mean, but I'm only doing backing vocals.
Now you're feeling terrible in this big suit.
Looking shit, feeling shit, everything, man. So I went out there, but as soon as you get out there and get the first couple of tunes and that, you're fine. But that was my first experience. I just remember the nerves, like the sweat and that coming off your hands, and you built it up to be like as if it's going to be this big massive thing the first time going stage. Because I was quite late as well, must have been about 18 or something, 19. If you were like 20 when you done it. But as soon as you got on the stage, you forget about it and you enjoy it. I can remember going on, I was like, I need to enjoy this. If I don't enjoy it, there's no point in me doing it. Because I was working at the time actually, I was down Dumfries on the building site, and I was like, ah, fuck, I hate this, man. I always wanted to do singing. So you're working away doing your 9 to 5, I was actually doing 7 till 7 on the building site. I can just remember the Friday, I was talking to another boy I'm actually in contact now, he's a rapper from Glasgow. I was working on the same site as him. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago actually. But I was on the site, I was like, fuck this, man, this is not, it's not making me happy.
Yeah, it's not what you want to do.
It's not what I want to do, I always wanted to do singing, so I just handed my notice on that Friday and started with the band like the following Friday, and the rest is history for there.
So out of all the experiences, like what do you think kind of got you through those nervous moments in it on the stage?
For nerves, man, it's probably the best thing for me was preparation. 100% actually, because I think I'd done a couple more auditions before. I'd done with the Drifters.
What an answer, by the way.
I know.
Let me rewind on that answer. Not, I mean, I like
That's
that.
true.
That was good.
So, actually, because I'd done a couple auditions before it. I remember I was auditioning for a group in Glasgow, and they sent me the songs to sing through for the audition. It was the next second day. Well, the audition was like a week, but I never looked at the songs like the day before it. I'd rehearsed it for a day and that. I thought, oh, this will be easy.
So you're saying that straight after the preparation
It was
answer?
that.
No, this is what.
Is it not a Caledonia song or
I
something?
can't remember what song it was. I never prepared properly.
That was a Scottish song.
Scottish song,
And I went in to sing it, and then I thought, oh, it'll be fine. It wasn't until I literally got in the room there, and I never realised I'd be standing there with all these people in front of me. There was about 10 of them.
I was one of them.
No,
So anyway, I had to go up and sing, and then next time they start putting the song on, and they'd sent me a song, and I'd looked it up on YouTube.
You'd been practising it? Because I
It was the day before. It was the day before.
No, is it done?
And then
I
I'd
didn't
sing it.
tell you story,
Yeah,
Jesus.
sing it, and then I can remember they playing the song, the one that they had playing. I'm sure it was a different key.
Oh, aye.
It was a different key. I started singing it, and I hadn't realised. And it came in first note. Like, I heard the song coming in at the start, and I was like, oh, fuck, this sounds different to the one I've been practising. But I should have done my preparation and says, send me it to hang. So I started sending me it so I can rehearse it. But I've just went on YouTube and typed up any old one. So I went on and started playing the song. All these people were standing in front of me. I think Jay was there, my mum was there,
Shireen says.
the manager of the band, and all the group was there as well. Started singing. As soon as the first note I come out, I was like, oh, fuck, this doesn't sound right. Started singing it, and then it came up, I sang the full song out of key. Came up to
you did alright at that point.
It was alright,
It came to the vote note, you had a vote
Came
note.
to the end of the song, and it
was
came
going to get
up,
you signed.
There was like a key change bit, and you could see yourself before it.
And yeah, it was coming up, man. And I said,
Space going
fuck
rubber.
it. I said, I'm just going to go for it, man, and try and hit this note.
Oh,
I came in to take a big deep breath before it, and started this big whaley, a note came out, man. It was completely off key. I think it was probably out of timing as well. Instead of just bringing it back down or putting it off, I've just held on to this note for dear life, man.
It was going to change.
And then that's it.
Held on
Maybe
to
jail it.
I'm
Sinking into the
I'm
jail.
secretly I'm thinking in my head, let the note go.
Let
Leave
Let
it.
it go.
You're not getting it, leave it.
held on to it.
Leave the note.
There was any fucking
What the
air
note
left
go?
in my lungs, man. I can just remember going, after that, I was like, fuck, I shouldn't have sung that, man.
It was your
You were
face
hanging on to
I
that
think I
shit.
just keyed up after that. I think I just stopped singing the song.
You hung on to that note
And I
as
was
if your
like,
life
"Oh,
depended
fuck."
on
I
it,
said,
man.
I said, can I sing the song again or something?
And I liked what you said before as well, because I had the same feeling about when you said you were doing another job, but as soon as you started doing into the singing, into the music, you realised, oh, do you know what I mean, this isn't for me.
I was doing 7 in the morning till 7 at night by the time I was getting home. I've still done it for about 6 months after that, but I know, because for that audition that I had, I never wanted to feel like that again. So even though I was working 7 at morning, 7 at night, I'd get home, I'd still run through my shit, and I was running it and running it. And it was working, but then it came to a point like I was still working, it was literally depressing me. I was like, I don't want to do this, I just wanted to do music 100%, so I sacked my job one Friday, I went in, had enough, I was like, fuck this man, I'm going to do music 100%. And then, luckily, as soon as I quit my job, that's when all these opportunities, it's like one door closes, and as soon as you make that decision, 100 or
3 doors open.
3 doors open. Do you know what I mean? So that was me made that decision, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And as soon as I walked out, as soon as like the Monday of that, you had phoned me saying the job in the group had came up. So I was like, all steamboats ahead of that.
How did you find the transition from rapping into singing? How did you find that transition?
I'd always been like, growing up with like dad and that, you'd have singing and that at the start, so that was always my initial thing was singing. But I've always just had like different interests in music and that.
Oh, you're in high school and that?
Hip hop, and I used to listen to a bit of indie as well. So I was influenced with a couple of different influences. Even now, that when I put a different beat on, when people ask me like, what's your genre, I've still got a few different genres I can like bounce on anything because I've grown up listening to so much variety in my music. But what was the question you asked me? The transition. So that was when I met a group of friends, Mallow Wavy and that, they're a bunch of rappers. And that just started freestyling about the house parties and stuff like that. I just love the energy about it. Rapping, it's completely different from singing. It's a whole different attitude and things like that. I can just bought into the idea.
It's hard to rap.
It is. But also I like style. Medolic rapping, so I thought if I can learn about rapping, I've got singing.
Medolic? Melodic?
Melodic,
I never even picked up on it.
So rapping and singing, I thought
made it sound good, that.
It sounded sweet, didn't it? I thought, imagine if I can do it, learn how to rap and sing and then mix it, I'll have a pretty cool sound. Plus with the differences for indie, for the hip hop and soul, if I can just like merge it into one, it'll be a kind of unique sound in that as well. So I always kind of bought into that and just try to learn singing and rapping as well.
As you said, it's two totally different genres. See, when I'm writing, I can write a rap melody and I can say, I could write rap for somebody and do a melody, but when I try and rap it or anything, I can't seem to find the voice. Because when you try singing, my singing voice is totally different from my...
I don't think you're that bad at it though.
That's probably just...
Is that a compliment?
I'm not. No.
Is that a compliment or insult?
What's a compliment?
I've heard you doing it.
I don't think you're that bad.
I'm going to do it at some point, but I'm not ready to do it now. Maybe a year down the line or something. But the hardest is trying to find... Because obviously in singing you can change your tones to different tracks. And obviously our singing voice is totally different from the speaking voice because of the type of music we were brought up. But the rapping again, it's like finding, I know they say use your natural voice as well, but that is your natural voice, but then when you just do that rapping and trying to get the melody into your natural voice, it's hard to explain, man.
The rapping as well, I was watching an interview with, I'm sure it was Timbaland, producer. It's like when you're trying to find where a singer's coming in, they try and find their own lane, what genres and that are coming in. But the same when rapping, it's to go with your voice as well. If you've got like a hard voice, you'd maybe you wouldn't pick a soft beat, or you could pick a soft beat, but if you've got a softer voice, you try and pick something that complements your voice, like a softer beat or like an acoustic sort of kind of rap. Do you know what I mean?
DMX on a piano track or something, you know what I mean? It's not going to work.
Like for instance, like Will Smith, you know, got the type of rap he done. It was all like kind of happy, upbeat kind of songs. He's not going to jump on like a
sad beat
or a hard song where his voice just sounds out of place. So it's just trying to find your lane and find your voice, what kind of suits your voice.
That's what it's all about. Even now, there's constantly evolving. Even us as a band, as a family, you know, in our everyday lives, and also as individuals, we're constantly evolving. There's constantly things that you can try and, you know, renew yourself in, and that's something that Dad always taught us. Never ever think you're the best, because as soon as you think you're the best, somebody overtakes you. Always practice your craft.
Always room for improvement.
Always room for improvement. But listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. If there's ever anything you want to see us talk about,
help the comments.
Drop it in the comments. We'll have a new subject every week, different stories.
DM us as well. But thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed.
Peace.